Welcome back to Gold Derby. We are going to do one of our earliest ever prediction slugfest for the Emmy nominations. What do we think will get in at the super early stage for the 2023 Emmy nominations? And who do we think will win? I am Marcus James Dixon. I'm here with Ray Richmond and Denton Davidson and Daniel Montgomery. And let's start with comedy series. Ted Lasso has won this the past 2 years. And it will be coming back, we're told, in time for this new cycle. It'll probably come back in March, April, May. And this will be the third season. It's possible this is the last season. They haven't officially announced that yet, but I think that's what people are thinking. What is everyone's thoughts on this race? Denton, let's start with you.
Well, the last time they were nominated, I went against them. And many of us did, and it was the wrong thing to do. So even though you have now this strong contender in Abbott Elementary, who last year, sort of started getting that motivation with a few Emmy wins for writing and Cheryl Lee Ralph, that's sort of the battle that I'm seeing now is Ted Lasso versus Abbott Elementary. You've also got Only Murders in the Building. The Bear is coming on strong. Barry, and then new shows like Wednesday. We have 55 comedies in our prediction center right now. So that's a lot of TV to catch up on to get a good read on being an expert on all these shows. But right now, this early on, I don't want to bet against Ted Lasso, especially if we find out that it is the last season. We're not sure if that news is coming or not. I'm sure Apple doesn't want it to be, but we'll find out. And if it is the last season, I think it's a slam dunk. If it's not, I'll still probably predict it because I feel stupid for not picking it last year.
I had it last year until the creative arts, and then I switched to Abbott Elementary. Daniel, what about you?
Well, I stuck with Ted Lasso last year. So it was one of the few things I got right. I don't remember what my score was. But now I'm going with Abbott Elementary. I feel like it's the kind of show, like it reminds me a little bit of The Office, how it had its first sort of mini season, and then its second season was when it exploded. I think it won its comedy series Emmy for that second season. So I feel like the momentum is there for Abbott Elementary. I feel like it probably came close last fall for the Emmy, and now that it's got a full season underway, the buzz for it hasn't died down. The acclaim for it hasn't died down. It's just building and building, winning at the Golden Globes, and everything seems to be working in its favor. So Ted Lasso could come back and win this, but even though it won comedy series last year, it did diminish from year to year in terms of what it won. So I think Abbott Elementary has the advantage here.
And Ray?
Oh, I'm sticking with Daniel on this one. I think Abbott is going to knock off Ted Lasso. I think it's still the show of the moment. It does have it is kind of looks like it's an explosion in season 2, and it's the cool show of the moment. And I think the Academy voters are going to want to go with something that has a little bit more of a African American bent. I hate to put everything in a racial context, but they don't want to have a lot of the tag that's been hung around the Oscars about being so white, and I think that's going to help it. Ted has already had 2 in a row. I don't see it getting a third, even if this is the last season, and there's sentiment for it. As far as the other shows, Only Murders in the Building, I think its first season was its best shot, and now maybe it's just me, but I think it's a little bit too precious for its own good in terms of quality. The Bear, I'm the only person in America that says this is not a goddamn comedy. People, wake up. No one's waking up. They're still treating it as a comedy, and that will no doubt help Jeremy Allen White, but it's not going to help the show.
It'll get nominated though. Whether it can beat Ted Lasso though, that's a whole new question.
It probably will. And
they usually go with the laughers in comedy. It doesn't always matter in the acting races, but they usually go for funny and best comedy.
Yeah.
And I think Wednesday is probably a year away from being a serious contender.
Well, let's move on. You kind of mentioned Jeremy Allen White, so let's start with a comedy actor. Do you think he could beat Ted Lasso himself? Jason Sudeikis has won this 2 years in a row.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think he already he won the Critics' Choice and the Globe. And he's the it guy at the moment. I mean, I think he's going to start turning up in movies everywhere. This is his time and he knows it. He's gonna be hitting the ground hard. He's got
Mm.
scripts galore, A24 scripts sitting around his bedroom, I'm sure, just waiting for him to give a thumbs up and a green light. So I feel like he's probably going to be the favorite, even though Jason's won 2 in a row. And Bill Hader is still kind of an outside shot. He's won here twice, and there's still a lot of love for Barry and a lot of love for him. But yeah, I think it's Jeremy's to lose.
Daniel? Or go ahead then.
I was gonna say, I'm just curious to see how he does at the SAG Awards, to see what how the industry feels about him. He's got the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice, but that's not the industry that's really going to be voting for something like the Emmys. So I'm curious to see how he does at the SAG Awards. I'm predicting him to win there, but if he loses there, that's a little bit of a dent in his armor. Then I would be a little leery for him at the Emmys, and probably go back to Jason Sudeikis, who's again the safe choice, who I also didn't pick to win last year. So so yeah, I'm curious to see how he does at the SAG Awards.
Yeah, and I think the SAG Awards will be interesting too, because that will he's got the table set for him perfectly at the SAG Awards, up against two pairs of co-stars who could vote split all over the rest of that category. So even though the SAG Awards do like veterans, so the vote split might not stop one of them, like a Steve Martin from winning, or a Bill Hader from winning. But yeah, at the Emmys, I think Jeremy Allen White will probably win. This is a category especially that doesn't mind dramatic performances. We've seen Jeffrey Tambor won this twice. Bill Hader for Barry won this twice. Even Donald Glover, Atlanta, skews darker than a lot of comedies. So that's another example. So I think Jeremy Allen White will win here, probably, even if I think he could win even if Ted Lasso wins Best Comedy.
I think so too. I'm looking back through Emmy history, and a lot of people have won this 3 or even 4 times, but only 3 people have won it 3 in a row. Don Adams, Carol O'Connor, Michael J. Fox. They're the only 3 people that have won this category thrice in a row without any breaks. So, I mean, Jason Sudeikis, it's possible that he could do this and join that list, but
I don't think he's quite in that class with this show, but I've been wrong many times.
Well, I'm always right.
Most of the time.
It would be really interesting if this is the last season of Ted Lasso, to imagine, an Emmy record where you're undefeated, your entire run for Best Comedy Series and Best Comedy Actor.
Comedy actress, I think a lot of us have Quinta Brunson winning. I don't think Hacks is coming back in time, so that's why it's not in our prediction center for Jean Smart, who has won this twice in a row. But does anyone not have Quinta?
I have Quinta, excuse me, but I'm not discounting Christina Applegate's swan song and having MS and being such a sympathetic figure at the moment, being a beloved figure in the certainly in the SAG Awards. It could be interesting to see how she does in SAG. And if she wins there, I have a feeling she's going to do very well in the Emmys. But Quinta, Quinta won last year, of course, for writing the pilot. And she's good on the show. I think she's better as a showrunner and a writer than she probably is as an actress. Just like I think, I don't know that I would have. I think Janelle James is better on the show than Cheryl Lee Ralph. But I may be in the minority on that, in terms of Abbott. But yeah, Christina's got a shot. Jenna Ortega, this is a very interesting category with potential long shots who could win.
Mhm. Daniel?
Yeah, I've got Quinta Brunson. This feels like one of my more comfortable predictions, especially with Jean Smart being out of the way. Again, this is a case where I think Quinta could win even if Jean Smart were in the running, just with how Abbott Elementary is building. But yeah, without Jean Smart there, I think Quinta has a pretty open path. Although I agree with Ray that Christina Applegate, the story around her and her diagnosis, and this being the last season of Dead to Me, so the last chance to award her for this show, potentially the last time to award her if she retires from acting, as she kind of hinted that she might after the SAG Awards. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think Quinta probably has this at the moment, unless something debuts in the spring that really just kind of explodes.
Denton, what about you?
I have Christina Applegate right now. Just based on narrative, and she's been really public about how this is probably the last time she's going to be acting in a show, other than she's talked about being ready to do a lot of voiceover work. But it's February, so and this awards is in September, so there's going to be a lot of shuffling around that we do and that I do. I have a lot of Hope Dictions right now in my predictions, to be honest. I have Amy Schumer getting in here because I think that show Inside Amy Schumer is so funny. That's the kind of raunchy comedy that I like. I have Cicely Strong for Schmigadoon, and Jenna Ortega and Rachel Brosnahan, just because Rachel's a safe choice, and Emmy voters seem to still respect Marvelous Mrs. Maisel a lot, even though it hasn't been winning Best Comedy Series and all of that. But it still does well when the nominations come out. But for now, I just have Christina Applegate as a placeholder, and we'll see how she does at the SAG Awards and see what transpires over the next 8 months.
Another person I have getting nominated that we haven't talked about is Elle Fanning for The Great. We haven't seen season 3 yet, but I mean, she's the queen on that show. So, wait, is she a queen? What's her stat? What's her royal status? She's the Great. So I mean, don't count her out, especially since no one has seen the new season yet.
And she got in last year, right? So
yeah.
A lot of people weren't predicting her to get in for that last year, and she was there. So keep an eye on her. Selena Gomez is ranked 5th in our predictions. Linda Cardellini for Dead to Me could be in there with Christina Applegate. So there's a lot of competition.
Comedy supporting actress Cheryl Lee Ralph won this last year, and she was not predicted to win, so that was kind of a shocker. But she is the favorite now at Gold Derby if you look at our overall odds. I should start listing the odds. So 2nd place we have Hannah Waddingham, 3rd Janelle James, 4th Ayo Edebiri. I hope I pronounced that right. Juno Temple is 5th for Ted Lasso. 6th is Alex Borstein for Mrs. Maisel. 7th Sarah Goldberg for Barry, and 8th Cicely Strong for SNL. Who wants to go first on this one? Do we all think Cheryl Lee Ralph is going to do it again?
I have her at the moment, but Abbott Elementary is one of those shows where the supporting characters are so strong that I could see them giving it to both year over year. So I wouldn't be surprised if now that Cheryl Lee Ralph has her award, if they make that move to Janelle, who is also deserving. So that wouldn't surprise me at all, but I do think it will come down to those two.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be those two, and I think Janelle is going to get the nod this time. I thought she was stronger on the show from the beginning. Although Ayo Edebiri is really coming on, and is there's a lot of buzz and a lot of chatter about her on that show as being kind of the secret weapon of the show and how well she does. And if there's anything close to a comedic presence on The Bear, it's her. But
she's a sympathetic character.
and she very sympathetic. And yeah, no, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and she's great on the show. And you could tell she's a real seasoned performer. But yeah, you know, Cheryl Lee Ralph could win again. Um, uh, uh, Alex Borstein there's, you know, other winners in the category. Um, Hannah Weddington, I think, won. Didn't she win in 2021? And Alex Borstein's won. You know, there's a lot of the voters could go back to a previous winner. You know, you never know. But I think all things being equal, it's Janelle's turn, and I agree. I agree with Denton that they might just start flipping things a little bit to have you know, to spread the wealth around.
And you've got Cicely Strong for her last season on SNL. So she was a big player for many years. That I hope she at least gets nominated for that final.
Do they ever give an SNL person a win in the Emmys?
Kate McKinnon won.
Yeah, Kate McKinnon won.
Okay, McKinnon.
2, I think she won.
Alec Baldwin won when he was Trump in supporting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess they will sometimes. They've only been eligible for SNL in those categories, I think, what, 7 or 8 years?
I think since 2009 is when they made that.
Yeah,
switch.
it's been a while now. They've been getting it. I think like 2008, 2009. I remember Kristen Wiig and Amy Poehler, I think, both got in the early years. Yeah, so and this year I do think I agree with you guys that Cheryl and Janelle are probably the top 2. But yeah, I'm also thinking, you know, if someone you know, swipes it from them, it'll be a new show like The Bear. You know, so Iowa Edebiri, I think, has a strong chance as well.
Someone else I'm predicting for a nomination that we haven't mentioned is Lisa Ann Walter, Abbott Elementary. She gets overlooked at every award show, and I'm hoping she will finally get her due at the Emmys.
Yeah, I think she's coming in a wave. I think we're also going to see in the supporting actor category that we're, you know, going to talk about Chris Perfetti getting in also.
I think
let's move on to.
I was just going to say, I think Cheryl Lee Ralph, part of the reason she's the favorite is the strength of her acceptance speech at last year's Emmys.
I want to backtrack real quick because I forgot to mention something for series. Just one of my Hope Dictions, an actor, was Sylvester Stallone and Tulsa King. I love the show. So I'm just putting that out into the universe that maybe we'll see Sylvester Stallone walk that Emmy red carpet. And, you know, he's had a nice sort of late portion of his career with Creed and this. So I think we should watch out for him.
That would be a fun nomination for sure.
He had an interesting ad on the Super Bowl yesterday too.
Comedy supporting actor. Right now I have Tyler James Williams winning, and I believe Gold Derby does as well. Let me look.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
They do.
Okay. So Gold Derby's other nominees, according to our combined odds, are Brett Goldstein, Ted Lasso. He's won this twice in a row. Henry Winkler Barry, Nick Mohammed, Ted Lasso, Anthony Carrigan Barry, Tony Shalhoub, Mrs. Maisel, Bowen Yang, Saturday Night Live, and Brian Tyree Henry, Oscar nominee, but he's up for the Emmys for Atlanta. So Daniel, did you want to start with this one? You mentioned Chris Perfetti earlier.
Yeah, I think Perfetti gets in, and Tyler James Williams, I do have him winning this, although again at this early stage I think a lot could still change over the course of the season. Like when we see the new, you know, season of Barry, like we could see people like, you know, Anthony Carrigan or Henry Winkler really show up the competition in terms of what their material is, depending. Yeah, I've got Brett Goldstein in third. I don't know if he repeats, but I think he's always up in there for a shot. But right now I've got Tyler to win and Henry Winkler in second.
Last year we saw so many people just dominating the categories from one show. Are those rules changing this year, where in previous years they can check off as many names as they want? Are we still doing that, or do they have to be more decisive and just choose 5?
For the nominations round, I believe it's 8 in this category you get to choose. to nominate, whereas you're right, the past few years it's been unlimited. So now that could hurt people that are kind of on the outskirts of the show that would get in if you had unlimited, but if you don't have unlimited, it could maybe affect some things.
I hope it does.
It'll be interesting to see how that affects it. I think it's you know, you can vote for as many people as will be nominated in the category based on however many entries there are. So like, you know, it's usually 8 in the comedy supporting categories and probably 6 for the comedy leads. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that helps or hurts some people who, you know, might be on the cusp for a really, really popular show.
I hope it hurts them, because the last few years, I mean, the nominations have gone to only a few shows, and we have more TV than ever, more great television than ever. So I hope this, you know, diversifies the nominations to various networks and TV shows, because last year, I mean, with like shows like White Lotus and Ted Lasso, I mean, it was just a little overbearing, I think, in some of the categories. So I hope that helps them this year.
Yeah, Succession having more acting nominations than any show ever in a year. Like that
you have
shouldn't
to
be happening
imagine
with this much good TV.
You have to imagine that other networks complained about those specific examples and saying like, look, all of us shows want nominations, but the way these rules are, it really benefits certain specific shows, and that's not fair to the whole, you know, lot.
Well, you know, if we learn nothing from the Grammys, it's just that huge upsets happen. And
especially when you have a lot of nominees in a category, the way, you know, you can win with, you know, a relatively small percentage of the vote, you know, potentially, really makes it interesting.
It's true. I feel like Brett Goldstein is a real good shot at repeating here. Although Tyler James Williams, speaking of upsets, his Golden Globe win, I think, was a huge upset. As I recall, I don't think any of us had it, did we?
I think I did.
Really? Because he was for the Globes, it was a pretty stacked category, as I recall, with a lot of, you know, Oscar winners in it, and he could absolutely win again. I feel like somebody like Harrison Ford could come in and get a nomination, potentially surprise everyone for Shrinking.
He could get 2. He's, you know, because he's
for
got
1923 also.
1923 also.
Yeah. I feel like Tyler's. This is one of those, I think, that's going to go through a lot of permutations over the next several months in terms of who's up, who's down.
I have Bowen Yang getting in again as well. He's sort of been on a hot streak with SNL. I thought he was really good as the Chinese balloon in a recent episode. But maybe not for the win, but I think he could easily get nominated. And then I also have Ebon Moss-Bachrach from The Bear getting in.
All good choices. Well, let's switch over to drama series. We have Succession coming back. It's won this twice before, but there's something interesting because it's going up against The White Lotus Sicily, which has to move over from limited to drama. So you're going to have HBO competing against itself for these 2 huge buzzworthy shows. We haven't seen Succession yet. It's going to start in March, I believe. But White Lotus was, you know, white hot when it aired at the end of 2022. Gold Derby also has Better Call Saul getting in, The Crown, The Last of Us, House of the Dragon, Yellow Jackets, and The Mandalorian. Denton, what do you think about this category? Is Succession going to pull it off again?
Well, HBO is killing it with our predictions for the drama series. I love that Succession is going up against White Lotus Sicily. This is like the heavyweight match of the night, and I can't wait to see how that goes down. I have the White Lotus winning right now, just because I think it's hard to repetitively win. Yeah, I mean, year after year. How often has a drama series won, you know, 3 best drama series? So
I have the list. The Defenders, Dragnet, Playhouse 90, and Upstairs Downstairs all won 3, but these shows won 4. Game of Thrones, Hill Street Blues, LA Law, Mad Men, and The West Wing.
So not, I mean, it's more difficult, I think, now in this era where there's more networks, more streaming platforms, more shows. And I think the White Lotus Sicily was so hot, but then by September, maybe not. I mean, maybe it's not so hot by September, and Succession will have the fresher season. So this is going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Right.
And I'm curious to see how The Last of Us performs, because I'm really loving that show. But you know, will they treat it like The Walking Dead? Someone wrote an article about that recently, and it's really,
that was me.
Daniel. So it will be interesting to see how that show is treated. But I mean, that recent episode with Nick Offerman, I mean, that's the kind of thing that The Walking Dead was never doing. So I think that show can get in and might get a lot of love as well.
Daniel?
Yeah, I have high hopes for Last of Us. I do think it could go either way. I think being on HBO helps it. And having Craig Mazin, who won 50 bajillion Emmys for Chernobyl, having him co-created it helps it. But to win, I think it's going to be Succession. I feel like, you know, sort of the opposite of Denton. I think it's if you're get your foot in the door, it's hard to get you out of it. You know, because like Game of Thrones, you know, kept winning and winning and winning, you know, at the end of its run, and it ended up winning another 12 Emmys, including Best Drama Series for its final season, which nobody even liked. So
I liked it.
I liked it too.
Okay, so both you're the two.
Yeah.
And with Succession airing in the spring this time, which is, I think it's the first time it'll be airing its episodes in the spring. It'll be much closer to Emmy voting.
It'll be still in everyone's
times.
Fresh in everyone's mind.
So unless it has like a huge drop off in acclaim and quality, and people start complaining about, or getting like really Succession fatigue, I think it's still gonna take this. I do like that White Lotus is in there, at least making it dramatic, because you do have two defending champions, competing against each other to see which one is actually stronger. So that'll be interesting to see. I think it's down to those two though, which is interesting, because I don't think we talked about The Crown yet. And The Crown, last time The Crown was eligible, it won everything.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a little Crown fatigue.
I do too, yeah, and I don't think the newest season was received with the same kind of fanfare as the first Princess Diana season.
And you have House of the Dragon, the Golden Globe winner. I mean, we haven't even mentioned that, and again, HBO. It's
that was my favorite show of 2022, and it's going to get a ton of nominations. But with so many other strong shows, like how many is it going to win? And we haven't mentioned Rings of Power either. We haven't mentioned Yellowstone or Yellow Jackets.
Another thing we haven't mentioned is Better Call Saul, which the ultimate bridesmaid. This show it's getting embarrassing at this point. 46 nominations and no wins, which must be approaching a record for being shut out, and 5 Best Drama nominations in a row. Maybe I can see a scenario where Succession and White Lotus sort of cancel each other out, and Better Call Saul sneaks in the back door. But I think in general, White Lotus, I think, is going to cool off considerably by the time nominations come and the show is in September. So I think it's probably going to be a clear field for Succession, but Better Call Saul's got a shot. And, I'll say that until its dying day.
I remember a decade or so ago when Downton Abbey won limited series, and then it switched to drama. And a lot of people were saying, oh, it's going to win drama now. And then it lost. And Big Little Lies did the same. Big Little Lies won limited, then it switched to drama, and it lost. So I wonder if the White Lotus will kind of follow that same trajectory of maybe there's some voters that are like, I'm not voting for this for drama. This is a limited series, and maybe
Right.
they
There's a little bit of a, it's you can make an argument that it's easier competition in limited, and then suddenly you're playing with the big boys in drama.
Drama actress. Let me get the list for Gold Derby. Our odds say Melanie Lynskey is winning for Yellow Jackets. The other nominees, Imelda Staunton, The Crown, Emma Darcy, House of the Dragon, Bella Ramsey, The Last of Us. That surprises me, happily. Elizabeth Moss, Handmaid's Tale, and Natasha Lyonne, Poker Face. I do have Melanie Lynskey winning right now. She's everywhere. I mean, she's on The Last of Us too, in a guest / supporting. I'm not sure where they'll put her, but maybe this is,
I think she'd be
her
guest.
year. Yeah. What about you, Daniel? Do you have Melanie winning?
Yeah, I have her winning. I was very close to putting her out front last year at the Emmys because there was so much buzz on Yellow Jackets. So I thought she had a shot at beating Zendaya. But now without Zendaya, I think Lynskey has a sort of clear shot at it. Although, again, this is another case where you cannot underestimate The Crown.
Right.
We saw Olivia Colman win. We saw Claire Foy win, although both of them won on their second seasons. So Imelda Staunton's still on her first. So if that jinx continues, then, Imelda Staunton will have to wait until next year. Yeah, so I think those two are out front, and it's hard to see. I feel like the rest of this category can go in 500 different directions. I think Helen Mirren could get in for 1923. You've got Emma Darcy. You've got Sharon Horgan, who got the Critics' Choice nomination. There's just so many potential players here.
Denton, what about you?
Yeah, it's Melanie Lynskey's interesting because was she our predicted winner going into last year, or did Zendaya end up edging her out in our predictions? I feel like for a long time, at least, Melanie was ahead and predicted to win in our odds. So I'm curious to see how she bounces back from that. But as Daniel mentioned, it is different with Zendaya out of the picture. I'm confused about this category. When you have someone like Emma Darcy, who that's the kind of person you would expect to win a Golden Globe. So if she lost the Golden Globe, it's hard to see her winning an Emmy. Although I guess that doesn't always line up because Julia Garner won like 3 Emmys before her Golden Globe. So maybe that's not a good.
And the person that beat her at the Globes was Zendaya, who's not up now. Like maybe Emma came in second at the Globes.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting if maybe it will be Melanie Lynskey's year, but we have to see what this season of Yellow Jackets brings, what her character goes through. The Crown is always a favorite. Imelda Staunton is a very respected actress. And then as Daniel mentioned, I wouldn't be shocked to see Helen Mirren in this race. Who doesn't love Helen Mirren?
Right.
And the Emmys adore Helen Mirren. She's got 4?
Right now, I have Kelly Riley for Yellowstone getting in my 6th spot, but I'm thinking now maybe you guys are right. The name recognition of Helen Mirren, maybe I'll swap out. I mean, it's basically the same show, right? Just different time periods.
Has Elizabeth Moss ever not been nominated for The Handmaid's Tale? I can't remember now.
No, I think that she's got 14 nominations total, including as a producer, and she won once.
So I'm just thinking if she's never not been nominated for any season of The Handmaids, I would expect her
I
to
think
probably
maybe she missed once. I remember there being a big shock one year when she was left off. But I might be misremembering that. That could be some weird Mandela effect thing that I'm remembering that didn't happen.
And this season of Handmaids was so good. And she had all these scenes with Yvonne Strahovski, going toe to toe with each other. I really hope they both get nominated.
And I have Natasha Lyonne getting nominated. I find her just fascinating. She
was so great on Russian Doll.
She's so bizarre in the greatest way. Mm-hmm. I would love to see her get a nomination.
I think this is Melanie Lynskey. Melanie Lynskey is definitely the favorite you know, for good reason. But yeah, Imelda Staunton's a previous Oscar nominee, very respected actress, as you said, Denton, and great. You know, if you play Queen Elizabeth, I feel like they almost have to give you something.
Mhm.
It's just
Interestingly, we
part of the
could have
deal.
a couple of Queen Elizabeths in there if Imelda Staunton and Helen Mirren are both nominated, because you know Helen Mirren obviously won her Oscar and her Tony for playing Elizabeth II.
Queen Smackdown.
And I just looked it
Uh,
up, and Elizabeth Moss indeed missed in 2020. The show was nominated for drama series. She was not nominated for actress.
Okay.
So that was her one miss.
So she's not a guarantee.
Drama actor. Gold Derby has Bob Odenkirk winning this, which, I mean, as Ray pointed out a few minutes ago, and the show has never won an Emmy, so people are kind of going against Emmy history here, but he is the far away front runner. It's like 830 people are predicting him to win. Second place, 126 are predicting Brian Cox to win. So it's a huge gap. Third place, we have Jeremy Strong, and then Jeff Bridges, and then Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us. Patty Considine, House of the Dragon rounds our top 6. Personally, I do have Bob winning this, but I mean, these episodes we're talking about aired in August, I believe.
Yeah.
So this will have been a year with the show not airing. Can Better Call Saul sustain momentum for a year when you have Succession coming out and 2 guys are going to be nominated from that? I don't know. What
I don't
do you
think
all
so.
think?
I feel like Better
No.
Call Saul has like dominated like TV, Twitter, and a lot of Gold Derby fans, but I mean, it's not. It doesn't have the audience necessarily that something like Succession has. So I still have Jeremy Strong and Brian Cox as my top 2, and I think it's going to be between those. I don't see. I get that it's the final season and the last chance to award Bob Odenkirk, but I don't know if people are if Emmy voters are necessarily as desperate for that to happen as a lot of fans of Better Call Saul are.
You know what I think? I think there's been a lot because of Breaking Bad and then Better Call Saul. It seems like that universe has been around for, you know, 12, 14, 15 years. And there's a little bit of, oh my God, is this thing still going? It's a little bit like Trump family fatigue, if you will.
It's the House of the Dragon. It's like the House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones.
Right, exactly. And it's sort of like, you know, oh my God, enough already. And I feel like I think people are a little bit shocked maybe that Brian Cox hasn't won yet. He's so good. And I feel like and such a great and respected actor that this is going to be his year. And so it's going to be so sorry, Bob, but you're destined to be the bridesmaid forever. Jeremy Strong is great too, though, and he did win once. Jeff, there's a lot of strong possibilities in this category. There, you got Jeff Bridges too, who has love from you know every Academy, and then Harrison Ford again for 1920. I think Harrison Ford is going to win something at the Emmys this year.
And I think episodes still matter, you know, in terms of Brian versus Jeremy. When you come to a show where the actors are in the same show and people are seeing so many episodes, that's when I think the episodes actually do matter. You know, last year we had Kieran Culkin predicted to win in our odds, but it was Matthew McFadden who ended up winning. And I think people who actually watched the show we kind of knew like he's probably gave the bigger performance. So I think it's really important to just, you know, if you're deciding between Brian and Jeremy, probably watch the season before you make that final judgment call.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've got Bob Odenkirk in first place as a placeholder, and I feel like depending on how the season of Succession goes and who walks away from that with the most buzz, that might override the potential vote split that they kind of suffered last year when Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game won. But yeah, I don't think there's a rival as strong as Lee Jung-jae here, except, you know, Odenkirk could do it if there's no decisive favorite between the Succession guys when the season airs.
I think you all just convinced me to take Bob out of number one, but I'm not going to put in anyone that you just mentioned. I'm going to put in Pedro Pascal into number one because I do think, I mean, The Last of Us is the show of the moment as we're recording this. It's all that people are talking about, and it's going to win something big. You know, I could see it winning directing, you know, something like that. But
and he's going to have The Mandalorian too.
Yeah, when does that come out?
I'm not actually sure.
I know I saw a commercial for it, so it's got to be soon. But I mean, he never gets in for The Mandalorian. But I think what you're saying is it's going to keep his name alive, like during the time that it matters. So I just made that switch right now at Gold
Having
Derby.
starring roles in 2 drama series nominees would be huge if that happens. I don't know if that's ever happened before, because usually when an actor is on a show, like they don't have time to do two full-time lead actor shows. So it'll be interesting to see.
And he just hosted SNL, and it was one of the most buzzed about episodes of the year. Did everyone talk about this category? I forget. Yes.
I think so.
Okay, so let's move on to drama supporting actress. And this one's interesting because Jennifer Coolidge is going to be in this category as opposed to Limited, which she won last year. And Gold Derby thinks her co-nominees will be Sarah Snook, Rhea Seehorn. My cat wants to interrupt. And then Elizabeth Debicki, Aubrey Plaza, Christina Ricci, Megan Fahey, and J. Smith Cameron. What do you think, Ray?
You know, Jennifer Coolidge appears to be a dynamo that cannot be stopped. But at some point she will be. I think she's, you know, after winning the Emmy and the Critics' Choice, and 2 years running, and then the Golden Globe, she's probably got to be the favorite this year. But Sarah Snook is fantastic on Succession and has a real shot. Rhea Seehorn's been nominated once before, and you know, and there's a lot of love for her. But again, I think it's Better Call Saul syndrome, where it's sort of been there, done that. And Aubrey Plaza is really coming on as she might well be Jennifer's biggest competition, not just in the show, but in the category. For something, because she's really starting to become a force in entertainment in general as a performer, and the buzz around her is huge now. But then you also have Elizabeth Debicki. You know, you also have it. You can never count Princess Diana out.
And Aubrey Plaza is so awkward and funny in real life, but this character was not awkward and funny, so that's called acting. Like, she was actually putting on.
Imagine that, actual acting. I know.
Daniel?
I feel a little bit bad for Sarah Snook because she finally got Julia Garner out of the way, and now Jennifer Coolidge is kind of moving into that territory after, you know, sweeping this past year's awards. I've got Coolidge winning it. I've got Snook stuck in second place again. And then Elizabeth Debicki after that. It'll be interesting to see if that holds true. I feel like it's almost like the heat hasn't died down on Jennifer Coolidge yet. So I think she's got at least another Emmy in her in terms of her winning streak.
She was just in a Super Bowl commercial, Jennifer Coolidge was. Denton, do you think Jennifer's winning?
Yeah, I'm gonna ride the Coolidge train until the wheels fall off. I think there's no reason for me to bet against her at this point. So I mean, Sarah Snook we've seen lose multiple times. So it's hard for me to go against Jennifer Coolidge. I do think Aubrey Plaza will be nominated, and I would love it if Megan Fahey was nominated as well. I think she's very underrated in that show and the part that she played. So this is one rare instance where I wouldn't be upset if 3 people from the same show got into a category. My little, like, my long shot FYC, Hope Diction, just a performance that a lot of people didn't see, but I just thought was so fun. Rosie O'Donnell in American Gigolo. I mean, she lit up the screen every scene that she was in. So if anyone hasn't checked that out, I think it's Rosie O'Donnell's best work. And she's serious but funny, and it was just a performance that for me was fun to see her in that kind of role, because I just thought it was so different for her. So that's my
How
little
many-
FYC Hope Diction.
How many koosh balls were there?
There were no koosh balls. She's no longer the queen of nice, Marcus. She's very serious.
She is one of my favorite people alive, so I need to watch that. A couple of people I have in my predictions that we haven't mentioned: Millie Alcock for House of the Dragon, who plays the young Emma Darcy character, and then Carol Burnett for Better Call Saul.
Yeah, Carol Burnett. Yeah.
There's a possibility Carol will get in and Ray Seahorn won't, which will anger a lot of people. But at the same time, I mean, it's the Emmys, and this is what the Emmys do. They name check a lot.
And it would be career achievement more than Better Call Saul.
So let's move on to drama supporting actor. The person I have at number one is someone that I thought would just dominate the early precursor award season, and he hasn't, and that's Matt Smith, House of the Dragon. I'm keeping him at number one because I believe that he did give the performance in this category of the year. Gold Derby's number one, though, is Matthew McFadden, who won last year for Succession. We also have Kieran Culkin getting in, Giancarlo Esposito. He just won the Critics' Choice Award. F. Murray Abraham, Jonathan Pryce, John Lithgow, and Stellan Skarsgård. Denton, what do you think?
I'm one of those that has Matthew McFadden on top, and clearly it's speculative since we haven't seen this season. But I'm just going with the returning champ here on a show that is so beloved. So I have him and Kieran at the top, but Matt Smith would be great. And, I'm curious to see how House of Dragon actually performs at the Emmys. F. Murray Abraham, people do love him, but his role isn't as significant in the series as I think is necessary to actually win. But I do have him getting nominated as well.
Daniel?
Yeah, I've also got Matthew McFadden winning, with Kieran Culkin in second, but I do have Matt Smith in third. I do think he could pull it off, especially if we see a lot of love for House of the Dragon. If we see multiple nominees for Succession that could split votes. And who knows? Matt Smith could be the Peter Dinklage of House of the Dragon. He could just maybe he'll win this 4 times. Who knows?
Yeah, Ray.
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and go with the flow here with Matthew McFadden, and Kieran. And even though I think Giancarlo Esposito may be my favorite actor of all time in any medium, he was so great on Breaking Bad, and now Better Call Saul. But if I'm going to stick by my everybody's sick of Better Call Saul rule, I don't feel like he's got a big shot this time.
I actually don't have him getting in, Giancarlo, and the reason for that is there's only 6 episodes eligible, and he was in 2 of the 6. He did not have a huge impact in these final.
No, this is not his year, really. As much as I agree, as much as I love him, and no, I could see Kieran. I could see these flipping and Kieran getting it over Matthew potentially, but I think people are still craving and loving Succession. I still think it's going to have another big year in general.
2 more I have in my picks that Gold Derby kind of has lower is Tom Hollander for The White Lotus and Michael Imperioli. So I do have a lot of White Lodi getting in here.
I have Theo James.
Okay.
For White Lotus. So
well, let's move on to limited series. In this one, we have Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story out front at Gold Derby, followed by Blackbird, Fleischman is in Trouble, White House Plumbers, George and Tammy, and Daisy Jones and the Six. Also watch out for Full Circle, Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Patient, Extrapolations. So lots of good shows here, and a lot of shows that have not premiered. So these categories are a little bit more in the dark. A lot more upsets could happen. Daniel, what do you think?
I've got Sight Unseen, White House Plumbers, in first place. I think HBO airing that in the spring it shows a lot of confidence in it. And HBO used to kind of dominate the movies and limited series races, and we've seen other outlets come in and swoop in, but this is star-studded, important subject matter. It's a limited series instead of a movie, which means Emmy voters will actually watch it. So yeah, I've got that out front, but again, sight unseen. We'll see what happens when it airs.
And Denton, Netflix is going all out for Dahmer. There's a new event every day, it seems like.
There is a lot going on for Dahmer. I think there will be good things for the actors from Dahmer, but I don't necessarily think it's going to win Best Limited Series just because of the dark nature of it, and it's a little controversial. I am like Daniel, I'm going sight unseen, but I'm going with extrapolations purely because I just saw Meryl Streep in our prediction center as the face cover of the prediction. I'm like, Meryl Streep in a new limited series, number one. So I'm just going to see how that one goes. And I have White House Plumbers at number 2. I just think that some of these are really good, but as time goes on, people's memories fade. So I'm not sure that they'll be as fresh on the mind of Emmy voters. Things like Blackbird, Dahmer, things that have done really well recently. I'm not sure if they'll hold all the way through to the Emmys.
Right.
I think I'm going with Fleischman is in trouble in this one. I think it's really built and has the sort of the image now of being the cool hip show of the moment, and with terrific performances. I agree that that Evan Peters and Niecy Nash Betts are going to do very well here for Dahmer, but probably not the show itself. It just creeps people out too much, as good as it is. And there's a lot of really intriguing, wonderful things here. White House Plumbers, I'm going to want to go with second here. And Blackbird, we know is terrific, and George and Tammy is terrific. There's a lot of good stuff, but this is one of those categories that we're going to have to wait and see what really emerges in a couple months.
It reminds me of last year. Reminds me a little bit of last year. We didn't know that The White Lotus was going to be the be all end all until the nominations came out. We thought maybe it'll be Dope Sick. The door felt like it was open, and as soon as those nominations came out, the door was completely shut, and White Lotus just had it.
Best TV movie. I guess we can go through this one pretty fast because the Emmys don't care about this category. Sadly, it used to be one of their best categories, and now it's shunted off to the Creative Arts Awards. Gold Derby has Fire Island winning, followed by Prey, Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, Hocus Pocus 2, and Jerry and Marge Go Large. Keep in mind what won last year, wasn't it? Chippendale?
Rescue Rangers, yeah.
So, I kind of snicker at Hocus Pocus 2 being in here, but it's right up the Emmy voters' alley, people.
I feel like this category is due for a resurgence now that the streaming era has really diversified what kinds of TV movies there are. It's sort of these, films that could or would be theatrical that just happen to go streaming, like Fire Island, like Prey. So it'll be interesting to see if more people start paying attention to this category. I hope they do, because it's going to be one of the most interesting lineups, even if it just goes straight by our odds. Like, you get Fire Island, Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, a Predator sequel, Hocus Pocus 2. Like, it's going to be one of the wildest categories, and I'm here for it.
I have Weird winning this, and I think it's not even a question.
I do too. It's great. I think it's terrific and surprisingly good. And the fact that Al had such involvement in it is going to help, and he's such a beloved figure. I feel like this, absolutely, I agree. It's his to lose.
And Daniel Radcliffe just won the the Critics' Choice Award. He wasn't there, right? I would have loved to see him give a speech, maybe at the Emmys. Denton, what do you have?
I have weird also, and I don't feel nervous about that at all.
Right.
I have Fire Island in second place, but I think that's very sort of niche, and I thought it was funny, but I don't see that winning. And I have Prey, somebody that I used to know, and Reno 911. I mean, that show just gets in places that you don't think it's going to. So so I have it in fifth place right now. I don't know about Prey and that sort of genre and what it can do at the Emmys. So I'm a little iffy on like filling out my last four, but I don't have any question that Weird is probably going to win this.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right on that. Even if it's one of those things, even if they don't watch, it's on the Roku channel, right? Even if the voters don't watch it, they could still vote for it because they know the story and they know how well received it was.
And they're probably not going to watch any of these.
No, that's the dirty little secret is half the things are voted on just based on what they hear.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to actress in a limited series. Denton, I'll come to you first because I know you were big on George and Tammy, and it didn't do well during this winter award season, but Gold Derby has Jessica Chastain winning, followed by Emily Blunt, Lizzie Kaplan, Riley Keough, and Vera Farmiga.
I have Jessica Chastain winning right now. I think it was up against a different competition, so it made things a little bit more challenging. And there's things that we haven't seen yet that are coming out. But I currently have her, and she's singing and acting once again. It's really her show and her spotlight. She's a producer, so I think she has a solid shot. I have Zoe Saldana getting in for From Scratch just because that was just such a huge show for Netflix and people loved that series. Allison Brie from somebody I used to know. Emily Blunt for The English, which I'm a little bit iffy on depending on, if people are watching that or not. And even though it wasn't the most well-reviewed show, I have Naomi Watts from The Watcher because I think she was fantastic. And then Catherine Hahn, just because she's Catherine Hahn, I have her getting in for Tiny Beautiful Things, which we have yet to see.
Daniel.
I've got Jessica Chastain winning. I'm sort of playing it safe with most of the front runners just because there's so much, to be seen. But yeah, it's a biographical role. She's gotten in at most of these events this cycle, even when the show hasn't done that well overall. And I feel like she's gunning for EGOT. I think she's on Broadway this spring too. So she's she got the Oscar. She crossed that off, and now she's like, okay, I'm doing TV. I'm getting that Emmy, and then I'm getting that Tony. And then she'll do a dramatic reading of Viola Davis's autobiography and win.
Or she could do a musical on Broadway and get a cast recording if it's original. She obviously sings. She sang as Tammy Faye Baker.
Or she could produce the compilation soundtrack for George and Tammy and potentially win a Grammy that way.
Ray, do you have her winning too?
Yeah, absolutely, Jessica Chastain. But I really, really like Lizzie Kaplan, and feeling like there's going to be more love for her than we know right now. And Fleischman, I think, is going to continue to build in esteem. But yeah, there's still a lot to come here. Emily Blunt is always obviously a name, and that's why she's second here. But I think Lizzie's going to be probably Jessica's biggest competition.
Next category, actor in a limited series. I love this one because you have the Golden Globe winner, Evan Peters, going against the Critics' Choice Award winner, Daniel Radcliffe, followed by Taron Egerton, Michael Shannon, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg. These are all very, very famous people / movie stars. I didn't even mention Steve Carell, Ewan McGregor, Justin Theroux. I mean, I kind of have Evan Peters winning by default. But is he really going to win his second Emmy? He's so young. And
He's so young, but he's so good.
yeah, and they
He
would
is.
both be for Ryan Murphy shows. I think only Jessica Lange has won two for a Ryan Murphy show. I'm for Ryan
No,
Murphy.
no, the his other one was Mayor of Easttown. That wasn't.
Oh, duh. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
Also, this is such a big step forward from Mayor of Easttown. I mean, no discredit to his role in Mayor of Easttown, but this is a much showier performance. And for as much controversy or this or that, people talking about the series, the one thing that has always remained strong are people's feelings for his performance and for Niecy Nash-Betts' performance. So I don't think that hurts them. I don't feel any question in my mind that he'll win this unless Woody Harrelson is outstanding in White House Plumbers. I have him in there because we just don't know what to expect from that show. So if anything's going to sort of sneak in there, someone like Woody Harrelson, who people love, might be the one to do it.
Ray, what about you?
I think Evan Peters is almost a shoe-in here. He's, you know, he's so good and so creepy. And when you see him talking on panels and stuff, he's so not not that I should need to say this. He's so not anything close to what he's playing. It's a real acting showcase, and I think people sense that. And it'll be interesting to see if he wins the SAG award. I have a feeling he will. And but yeah, there's a lot of big names in this category. You know, Daniel Radcliffe, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Steve Carell. But I think there's a general feeling that this guy made it. He's so good that he made it okay to watch this series and not feel like you need to take a shower afterwards.
And you know, Darren Criss won the same category for playing a killer in a Ryan Murphy show, so there's precedent for it. Okay, let's move on. We're almost done, everyone. If you're still watching, thank you for sticking around with us. Supporting actress, we've already mentioned Niecy Nash-Betts. Gold Derby also thinks Claire Danes will get nominated, Lena Headey, Judy Greer, Cherry Jones, and Anna Paquin. Does anyone not have Niecy? I think this is a slam dunk category, but again, it's February.
And Claire Danes seems to win a lot. They seem to really like her, but
it
does seem like Niecy's category. She's if you watch it, I mean, that's the thing is if you really watch it. If you really watch it, it's impossible to vote against Niecy.
It's the best she's ever been in her career.
No question.
Yeah, I've got Claire Danes, and actually in second place I've got Olivia Colman. She's playing Miss Havisham in Great Expectations, so that's a really, really kind of showcase kind of role. So watch out for that. And then I've got Niecy Nash in third place. Again, I'm a little bit unsure of how Dahmer is going to go over overall at the Emmys.
Denton.
Olivia Colman in Great Expectations, that is a meaty role. I mean, I would definitely be worried about that if I was Niecy Nash, but I have Niecy in first. I have Jennifer Coolidge getting in here for The Watcher. You know, again, I don't know if they're going to watch The Watcher. But again, how big is the love for Jennifer Coolidge? We're going to find out. And so I have her getting in there. And Judy Greer is one of my favorite working actresses. I think she's she just transforms in what she does. I think she's so funny. I loved her in a limited series last year, the thing about Pam, which got no love from Emmy voters with her and Renee Zellweger. So I'm hoping that Judy Greer gets in here.
I just want to say also that CCH Pounder is one of the great unacknowledged, unheralded actresses that's worked in television and in any medium. I haven't seen Full Circle, but I'd love to see her, if it's merited, get a nomination.
And I
I
also,
love
we haven't seen Tiny Beautiful Things, but like I have Catherine Hahn in there, but I also have Merritt Weaver, who is sort of one of those Emmy go-tos. You know, if you're
Mhm.
can't figure out who to throw in your last spot and Merritt Weaver's there, go for it.
I think I put Michael Learned in my last spot for Dahmer, just for the same reason. I mean, she's been around for a long time and the voters love her. Okay, supporting actor in a movie limited series. Here we go. This is the final category we'll be talking about today. I do have Paul Walter Hauser out front for Blackbird. He won the Globe, he won the Critics' Choice. I mean, is he just going to go undefeated? Well, I don't know if he'll win the SAG Award, but it's tough because he's a supporting going against leads there, so that's kind of different. But Gold Derby actually has number one, Richard Jenkins for Dahmer. And then other nominees, Domhnall Gleeson, Ray Liotta, Dennis Quaid, and Jarrell Jerome. Ray, what do you think?
I like Paul Walter Hauser here too.
Mhm.
You know, Richard Jenkins good, but you know, Paul, it's a great performance. It's there was a lot of heat around it, and um, Domhnall Gleeson is certainly building in stature, but you know, that's still more for Banshees than for this. I never know how to view somebody who's going for something posthumously like Ray Liotta. Um, Typically, it doesn't really work out, but you know, it'll be interesting to see. There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't premiered yet that we still need to see, but a lot of big names in the category too, like Timothy Oliphant, Greg Kinnear. Um, It'll be interesting to see what how everybody reacts to the firepower of the category.
Mhm. And Denton?
Um, Ray Liotta and Richard Jenkins both sort of play these heartbroken, guilt-ridden fathers. So I'm curious, you know, that might sort of pull from the same pool of voters potentially, and especially, you know, their age and the work that they've done in the business. I had Ray Liotta in first, but you know, he keeps losing to Paul Walter Hauser, so I'll probably switch by the time things get serious. I have Bone Yang in there, just you know, because the Emmy voters like Bone Yang, so
Mhm.
maybe get some comedy in there for Fire Island and Domhnall Gleeson, and then again, just a placeholder. I haven't seen it yet, so my last spot right in there now is Jerome for Full Circle.
And Daniel.
I've got the serial killers in 1 and 2, Paul Walter Hauser and Donald Gleason. It's going to be serial killer night at the Emmys with this and with. I hope The Patient does well. I have Steve Carell also in for actor, um, uh, but yeah, I don't think Monster is going to win 3 acting awards. I think probably the weakest one, weakest race for it would be this one. Especially with Paul Walter Hauser already winning awards for Blackbird, you know, and Donald Gleason you know, consistently getting nominated. So I've got them at 1 and 2. I think Ray Liotta gets in, but doesn't win. You know, what often happens is that the Emmy voters are sentimental in the nominations round, and then just
Mhm.
heartless in the winners round. Like they'll give the posthumous nominations very often, but they don't always materialize into posthumous wins.
He also
Chadwick Boseman being a big example of that.
Yeah, that is an example of it happening, but it you know he beat actually Jessica Walter for Archer, who for 2 years in a row was nominated posthumously and couldn't win. So it really it's tough to gauge when voters are
They're just
feeling.
not as good at campaigning.
And I mean, in Ray Liotta's defense, he's not in it as much as Paul Walter Hauser. So if you actually watch all the episodes, and I did, and I loved it, there's really only one person that you could vote for in that category for the win. I mean, talking about for the win. Does anyone have any final thoughts on Emmy nominations 2023?
It's going to be a long ride, so figure out what streaming platforms you have. look through our odds and put together your list of priorities of how many hours you need to spend in front of the television to become an expert on all of these shows. It's a lot.
Mhm. Well, thank you, everyone. You can go make your predictions at Gold Derby right now, as well as for all of those Guild awards, Directors Guild, Producers Guild, Writers Guild, and of course the Oscars for another month or less than a month. So thank you for watching, and we'll be back with more Slugfest throughout this season.